Alrighty, so all 13 games from match week number 9 in terms of the midweek action is in the book, and rather of me doing all 13 games review in this video, I'm only going to look at the first two games and the two games that happened yesterday, because as you probably know, I wasn't able to watch a lot of the Wednesday night action because I got off work at 6:30, and by that time, you know, most of the action from the busy Wednesday night game is already in the books, and I was only able to watch the second half of the Orlando City versus Nashville SC and the Sporting KC versus Portland Timbers game, and I was also able to watch like 3/4 of the Austin FC versus Vancouver game, and the only game I was able to watch full was the RSL versus the Houston Dynamo game. Now, the good news is during the final game that was taking place, I did start to watch some of the condensed version of a couple of the matches that I missed to kick off the Wednesday night action. But still, you know, I still have a long way to go in terms of watching all of them. I think there's like 4 more full kind of condensed match, or 4 matches that I need to watch the full condensed highlights of it. And then there's obviously, I think, 3 more that I need to kind of partially watch the condensed version of the match because I only watched parts of it. And by the time I finish in terms of watching all of those highlights, most likely it will be very late at night, and that does not include the fact that I still have to put the notes on the board, which you'll be surprised. It actually takes just as long in terms of putting the notes on the board as it is to watch all the highlights of the games that I missed. So yeah, that's the reason why I decided to not do the full review and look at all 13 games. And also, you probably know I'm not gonna do the review of all 13 games. Like, that would just take forever, and it would take forever for me to upload this video. So with that being said, let us actually talk about these two games that happened yesterday, and we start off with the Galaxy versus the Colorado Rapids, and the Rapids was the only team that was able to get the win in terms of yesterday game action. And there's no doubt that this game has really sent a message to the rest of the league, and even some of those doubters that the Colorado Rapids might be not a contender in the Western Conference, that, yeah, they are definitely a contender in the Western Conference, because they didn't just able to get a win against the Galaxy on the road. They were able to win against a Galaxy team that have been red hot in the last couple of games, and if the Galaxy would have won this game, they would have got themselves right back at the top of the Western Conference. Now, in the first half, there was a penalty that was given to the Colorado Rapids after VAR deemed that Rivalson brought down Lewis in the box, which, when you look on VAR, yeah, it was pretty clear that Rivalson clearly made a clumsy challenge on Jonathan Lewis in the box, which VAR correctly overturned the original call. That was not a penalty. And of course, with Lewis winning the penalty, he was rewarded in terms of trying to convert it, which he was able to do so, as he scores to give the Rapids a 1-0 lead 11 minutes in the game. Now, there was another shout for a penalty for Colorado after Lewis once again was brought down in the box by Koulibaly, but this time the referee did not point to the spot, and he thought that Lewis maybe went down on the ground a little bit too easy. Possession was 78-22 in favor of the Galaxy, but there was only 3 shots that was registered from both teams, and you know, there wasn't really much that happened in the first 20 minutes before a couple of penalty shouts, with one of them actually being deemed a penalty via VAR. But in the 21st minute, Lewis once again was brought down in the box by Bond, but instead of maybe shouting for a penalty again, he actually decided to stay on his feet. He actually got back straight on his feet, and he just took a shot that was clear off the line by Araujo, and that the Rapids was definitely in business in the first 20 minutes. But that being said, in the 27th minute, Koulibaly did hit one wide from the corner before Yarbrough had to deny Williams from long range, and all of a sudden the Galaxy was starting to come back into this game. And before I finished writing that note, Rivalson would score from Williams to make it 1-1 in this one. What a great goal this from Ryan Rivalson, which, you know, it seems like he is a guy that is starting to kind of take that Hassani Dotson kind of trademark move, which is bangers only. Like, he only scored bangers. All the goals that he scored has to be incredible, and this was just one of those. That was one that he just kind of hits it from outside the box and basically slams it in to tie the game up for the Galaxy. And then 2 minutes later, they had a chance to take the lead, but Yarbrough was able to deny Grandsir after just a WTF turnover from Colorado, like just coughing the ball in the back and in the worst possible position, but the Galaxy wasn't able to punish them there. But there was no doubt that the momentum was with the Galaxy as they were pressing for a go-ahead goal right before the halftime whistle, but we do have to halftime with a 1-1 scoreline between the Galaxy and the Rapids. Now in the second half, Yarbrough was able to tip Vasquez free kick shot over before he would rob Williams, who had a free header from 5 yards out. And then Vasquez drive one straight to Yarbrough in the 52nd minute, and the Galaxy kind of picked up where they left off at the end of the first half, which is continue to press for that opener. But that being said, in the 57th minute, Bassett struck the post, and I tell you what, Cole Bassett is just snake bit. Like, how many times he has hit the post so far this season? Like, he must be leading the league in terms of hitting the post, because it feels like almost every single game he has to hit the post at least once. But 2 minutes later, Lewis did hit it wide from close range before 2 minutes later, Grandsir was the latest victim of the post as he struck it from 19 yards out. But there was no doubt that this game was definitely on a knife edge, and after the Galaxy kind of dominated a little bit, the Rapids got back into the game, but so did the Galaxy started to continue to create chances, and you just kind of sense that somebody eventually is going to get that second goal, and that somebody was the Colorado Rapids, as they would retake the lead in the 73rd minute as Shinishiki would score from Jack Price. I mean, that is just a trademark kind of Rapids goal with them scoring on a set piece. Jack Price is going to deliver a great ball into the box, which Shinishiki was able to capitalize on that. But at the same time, I didn't think that was the best set piece defending from the Galaxy, and this is kind of one of the things that they've struggled this season, alongside with the fact that the defense of this team, yeah, there's still times where it looks like this is the Galaxy of the past, where their back line just looked very shaky at times. But in the 85th minute, there was a shout for a penalty for the Galaxy, this time from the crowd at Dignity Health Sports Park, but the referee was having none of it, before Jonathan Bond had to deny Rubio to keep this game at a 1-goal game, before Rubio had another chance to put this game away, but he puts it wide from long range. But in the end, the Rapids, even though they missed a couple of chances to put this game away, they were still able to hold on to win 2-1 in this one. As the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 15 that the Rapids had, 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Rapids had, 9 shots off target compared to 4 that the Rapids had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 6 that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that the Colorado Rapids has in this game. And again, the Rapids, I think it's time that we really need to take this team seriously to be a team that could be a contender in the Western Conference. And even when you look in the standings, they're actually not that far from actually catching in terms of the top 3 right now that is battling for that top position. And if the Rapids can continue to win games like they are doing both home and away, this team can definitely get into the conversation to be a team that could lead the Western Conference, which, I know the Rapids coming into this season, there was definitely that expectation that they can take the next step after an impressive season that they had last year, but nobody thought that Robin Fraser team would take that big of a step. The fact that now they are considered themselves to be a contender, and in some way it's great the fact that is the case, because they did lock a lot of these players and did lock this core that they had to a long-term contract. And if this success continue for the rest of the season, they might have some long-term success. That's something the Rapids have not had a lot in their recent time. But for the Galaxy, big missed opportunity for them to go at the top, to the top of the Western Conference. And I don't think they would have stayed there, because I think later tonight the Sounders did win. So if the Sounders didn't win, they would retake first place. Well, SKC actually didn't win. They actually drew against the Portland Timbers. But at least for one night, they had a big opportunity to get themselves back to the top spot in the Western Conference, and they weren't able to do so. But now moving on into the last game that I'm going to talk about in terms of the Tuesday action is the Blues Knot Derby between the Quakes versus Minnesota. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth into this, because I kind of talk about that in my I already did a video that that is me basically doing a quick recap of this game right after when this game is over. Well, actually, I will kind of maybe go a little bit more in depth in terms of talk about who that actually scored the goals and all those chances that was missed. That is kind of something I did not mention in the quick recap, but in many ways, you know, when you look at this game, there wasn't really a lot of chances that was made, and you know, this in some way was just another game where it was kind of boring to watch if you are neutral. And the only good thing coming out of this game is the fact that at least there was goal that was scored in the first half. And in fact, 12 minutes in, we have ourselves the game's first goal, as unfortunately Debussy, of course, scores an own goal. I mean, it was a good delivery there from Espinoza, but I feel like Debussy probably should have done better there, and you know, he was trying to maybe block that one away, but he kind of got it all wrong and puts it into his own net. But then in the 21st minute, we have ourselves a game-changing moment when VAR basically deemed that Nathan's challenge on Debussy was actually worthy of a red card. Oh, by the way, it's not Debussy, it's Debussy. Apparently, that's actually the new pronunciation. I think it kind of all started in that game between Minnesota versus Seattle, where they started to pronounce Debussy name as Debussy, and I think that's kind of like the French pronunciation. And ever since then, that's how they kind of pronounce it. And especially whenever I listen to the Loons broadcast, I mean, Callum Williams and Kendra D. St. Alban has started to kind of pronounce the same way. So I guess maybe I'm going to change it to and now pronounce his name as Debussy. But yeah, that was definitely a reckless challenge that Nathan put on Debussy, and you know, it was definitely studs up, and rightfully so that VAR definitely got that one right, with it being a straight red card. And the Loons waste no time to capitalize from being a man up, as Will Trapp actually scored his first goal for Minnesota, as he scored from Hunu to Finley to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And then 3 minutes later, it looked like the Loons completely turned this game on its head, as Hunu actually scored what looked like it was the go-ahead goal for Minnesota, but then the goal was disallowed for offside. And when you look on the replay, yeah, Hunu was at least a yard or two offside, but at least, you know, he was able to score. I mean, that's something that is kind of frustrates me with Adrian Hunu ever since he's becoming a Minnesota United player, which is, you know, he does at times get into good space, but he just weren't able to find that killer finish to put the ball into the back of the net. And you know, it's great to see that he was able to do so in this sequence, but maybe next time don't go too soon in terms of your runs and basically get yourself caught in an offside position. Now in the 36th minute, Reynoso did have a free header, but he puts it wide from close range. Reynoso really did not have a good game in this one. I mean, I thought he turned the ball over way too many times again, and this has been a problem for Reynoso this season, is that, you know, I know earlier this season I talked about how I kind of give Emmanuel Reynoso the benefit of the doubt, the fact that teams are trying to maybe kind of double or even triple team him and trying to foul him so they can get into his head a little bit, and kind of frustrates him a little bit. And in some way, maybe that kind of started to get into Reynoso head and really kind of started to maybe get into a way where he's become a little bit ineffective in terms of the passing, and it just feels like he almost kind of feels like he's afraid in terms of trying to take on players, because he knows that he's going to be punished by the opposition by hacking them, and he just kind of make these sloppy mistake. And yeah, again, it was a very frustrating game for Reynoso, and you know, just really didn't offer for much, especially in the second half. But, you know, despite that, I thought the Loons was pressing to try to get the second goal. But that being said, right on the stroke of halftime, Miller had to make a big save to deny Espinoza from long range before Reynoso drive it wide from long range effort, and we head to halftime with a 1-1 scoreline. Now, heading into the second half, let's not talk about that second half, because basically almost nothing happened in that second half, and I only kind of put some notes on here that maybe isn't worthy to talk about. The game is actually very entertaining, But there was a scramble in the Quakes box that really didn't lead to much for the Loons. In fact, it actually led to a foul against the Loons and a free kicks for the Quakes. Trap then blast one into Rosette from close range, and the game really kind of become very stale with neither team did much on the attack. Very similar to the last game that the Quakes played against the Whitecaps, where there was just nothing for the last 30 minutes. If you're a neutral to see, then I even said it. You could literally decide not to watch the last 30 minutes or even miss the last 30 minutes of the Quakes versus Whitecaps match, and you wouldn't be missing anything. And it seems like it's the same case here. You could miss the last 30 minutes of the Blues Knot Derby between the Quakes and Minnesota, and you wouldn't miss much in this game because the only thing that happened late in this was a huge shout for a penalty that was not given to the Quakes. I believe it was K. Cal, the one that thought he was fouled in the box, but I thought he kind of embellished that a little bit, and hence that's why the referee did not give it a penalty. Bubasi then puts it wide from close range. Ibobasi has been kind of disappointing, and Ibobasi is kind of almost around the same timeline as what I feel about who knew with Minnesota, where this is a big money player that the Loons just spent, and he hasn't really produced. And Ibobasi, I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he's still trying to learn the system, but at some point we got to start to see some progress, because as much as I know a lot of people talk about how great of a trade that the Quakes made by getting Ibobasi from the Portland Timbers, one thing I said about this trade, I'm gonna repeat myself again because this is very important. If they do not give Ibobasi service, he's not going to frighten, because he's not the guy that basically create his chances. Well, he's a good hold-up player, but he's not a guy that you can just simply trying to drive forward and try to maybe create his own chances. And it just feels like ever since he's been with the Quakes, he just have not got enough service, and hence that's why he hasn't really had a lot of opportunity to score. But that being said, I also thought that his movement at this game wasn't really that good, but that mainly is due to the fact that they were down to 10 men for a lot of this time, and that the Quakes were kind of being very conservative and kind of almost sitting back for the last 75 minutes just to trying to maybe sit tight and maybe go on the counter to caught the Loons from putting too many men forward on the attacking end. But in the first minute of stoppage time, Jackson Yu did put a free kick high, and that was it. I mean, that was really the only thing that happened in the second half. And again, I'm very surprised. I actually put some notes in the second half, considering there was really nothing that happened in this. But in terms of shots in this game, only 4 shots compared to 15 that Minnesota has. 3 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Quakes had. 2 shots off target compared to 6 that the Loons had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, 65% possession compared to only 35% possession that the Quakes has in this game. But don't let that shots kind of fool you, the fact that Minnesota probably should have won this game, when you consider a lot of those shots were actually happened in the first half, where in the second half, I kind of said that in yesterday recap too, you couldn't tell that this game was 11v10. Like, the way that the Loons was really struggling going forward on the attack and just cannot break down this Quakes team. I mean, you just think that, are you sure that they're actually a man up? Because the way that it looks like it's still 11v11 out there. And, there's no doubt that I can understand why there's a lot of Loons fans are not happy with this result. Because, yes, they do get a point on the road, which is good. But the fact that when you're up a man for that long of a period and you don't even generate anything in the majority part of the second half, that's what's really, really frustrating. Like, this game isn't really just because of the fact that it was frustrating because they couldn't finish. This was just a game where they just couldn't generate any chances, and that's what's even make me more frustrated, because, I can maybe take the fact that when they do miss some of those chances like they did against the Galaxy, and I can maybe give kind of an applause and kind of a salute to the goalkeeper for having an incredible performance. But this game, that was just not the case. That was just this team decided to almost feel like they checked out in the second half and don't really do anything on the attack, and that's what's so frustrating about this result, and not to mention the fact that this team has a really tough schedule coming up with the way that they have to play SKC twice in these upcoming week, and they still have the Portland Timbers and the Seattle Sounders in the upcoming schedule. But that being said, for the Quakes, I know some people will say that a point is a good result with the way that they were down a man for a majority of the game, but still, I just feel like, it's another game where the Quakes drop points, and the fact that they have now drawn 7 times in the last 9 games doing this 9-game unbeaten run. I mean, as impressive as this 9-game unbeaten run, I got to keep reminding everyone that this team is still below the red line right now. And the only reason why they're below the red line is because they're drawing way too many games right now. And it just gets to a point where I don't care if this team is 9-game unbeaten. If they keep drawing games, this is going to continue to frustrate me and continue to just make me feel like this team is not going to make the playoffs, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you decide to draw as many games as they have been and continue this unbeaten run. If you're not getting 3 points, you are starting to fall behind around teams that are winning games and are pretty much passing you in the standings. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of both of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of both of these games? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.